University and her MS Public Health degree from National Taiwan University in Taipei, which I understand. I've heard this many times, that's the Harvard of Taiwan. But we love, until year 2000, she was in your seat. She was a PhD student here at that time in the Department of Pharmacy Administration. Look at that. They like you now. All right. Dr. Lin, at that time, Swu-Jane was such an excellent student. But something you guys might not know, when your superior faculty might fight for you behind the scenes. Dr. Lin, our former faculty member, Bruce Lambert, who's now professor at Northwestern, she was his RA, an excellent one. I said, I want Swu-Jane. He said, no, you're not getting her. I had her 6 months later. And she was remarkable. It was one of those things, you know, when you learn the databases. She knew SAS. I hadn't used SAS since I was a grad student. Whatever she needed, she knew. I said, yeah, either I can learn SAS to make sure we relearn it, or you're going to learn SPSS 3 days later, and I'm quite good at that. She knew more about SPSS than most people in the country. She was quite good. I will say a few more things. Almost never, because it's not necessarily good for you. Almost never will a program hire its own. At least if it does, that's usually an issue that we have trouble recruiting from elsewhere, because you need to take your knowledge and go elsewhere and not be seen as a student. She was too good to let go. Since I've been here, the only person we have ever hired to stay on faculty immediately after her PhD. She was with us from 2001 to 2006 as assistant professor in the department. Then, love took her away. She met this man who I'd never met in San Diego, who thought he was going to take her away easily. No. One, I let it be known you don't leave till he puts a ring on that finger. And we're not going to let you go until we meet him. And I say we because Dr. Hen Hatun was in on this too. Exactly. It took him a while, but Dee is one of the best people I've ever met. They're so in love. He is also a PhD. Ladies, she made it that a requirement. You had to have a doctorate degree to come back to your life. Intelligence, NMR, Scripps, La Jolla. Intelligence. Yes, you too. And she has a lovely daughter, mother, who we just grew up together. Oh, one more thing here. Since the last 12 to 15 years, once people get Swu-Jane, they want to keep her. She is adjunct professor at the very prestigious National Qingheng University in Taiwan. She's also adjunct professor at NTU, and they really use it. She's taught courses, pharmacoepidemiology. She serves on thesis and dissertation committees for both of them. To keep her humble, she's an adjunct assistant professor in our department. Obviously, we need to do something about that. And she is also a senior consultant with N.T. Hatun and Company. Lastly, her areas are outcomes research and pharmacoepidemiology. She's one of my best friends. She has the key to my townhouse, and she has the key to our heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lin, welcome home. Thank you.
So, should I just stand here? I can walk around.
Our house, and she has the key to our heart. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Lin, welcome home. Thank you.
So, should I just stand here? I can walk around. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, to give me this opportunity to talk about this topic. And yeah, it has been too long, and it's so good to come back. And I am really surprised to see the department has grown to so much person. Yeah. But why there is no hangout? That's what I don't understand. Okay, I know we want to say
we're environmentally friendly now.
Yeah. Okay, I know there's some budget issue. Okay, that too. Yeah. Okay, so let's go into this topic. And you are welcome to, raise your hand or without raise your hand to ask any question. If you so desire, that's fine, perfectly fine with me. And this method, sequence symmetry analysis for signal detection, this actually, is a work done mostly by my graduate student in Taiwan. And he is very brilliant. And so after he graduated, he is now a faculty in the Chengdu University as well. And this method, it is actually so simple that when you understand what it is, you will want to kick yourself. Why haven't I thought of this before? It's so simple. Yeah. So, but today, the focus is, of course, we'll talk about what is this method and what can this method does, what can it do or, not. But mainly we want to talk about the validity of this methodology, how reliable and valid is this method, and how we can go about to check the validity of this method and the efficiency of this method compared to other methods. Okay, because the method itself is very simple. Okay, and this method is based on the sequence of prescriptions. We want to know whether there is a causality, for example, of a drug A cause some kind of side effect or adverse drug effect. And we all know that the criterion or the conditions to determine a causality, the first most important thing is what? Chronological orders, right? The drug A has to be given before the suspected side effect or adverse drug effect, right? But there are also some other conditions such as the covariation of the cause and effect, and without other confounding factors or spurious association between the cause and the effect. Okay, so this method is basically based on the chronological order of the treatment and some kind of outcome, such as adverse drug effect. And how do we go about to determine the chronological orders of this cause and effect? The cause will be like the drug B that is usually associated or is usually used to treat the side effect, such as hypothyroidism. Okay, so if the drug A, amiodarone, was prescribed before drug B, tyrosine, then we consider this as a cause group. But if it is the other way around, drug B was usually given before drug A, then this is not likely to be a causal relationship that the side effect is caused by drug A, right? So we only need to look into the chronological order of drug A and drug B, to decide whether there might be a significant association of the side effect with drug A. And based on the number of patients in the causal group and the number of patients in the non-causal group, we can calculate a sequence ratio. And this is number of patients in the causal group divided by number of patients in the non-causal group. And of course, if this ratio is significantly larger than 1, then we, can decide that, okay, this might be a significant association of this drug A and, resulted side effect. Okay, so look at this figure. The figure presentation is very important for this kind of method. And this is very simple. The y-axis is the number of patients. In this method, we only use the patients with both drug A and drug B. So, in other words, this is the case only method. Okay. So this is number of patients for the y-axis, and the x-axis is the duration between the drug A and the drug B. And it centers on the index day. The center is the index day. That is the day when the drug A was given. Okay. So the on the right side, this is the causal group, and the left side, this is the non-causal group. For example, on the right side, this is amiodarone was given first, and then tyrosine was prescribed. Okay, so this is the causal group, and this is the non-causal group when the tyrosine was first given before amiodarone. Okay, and this is months, duration between these two prescriptions. For example, one means that tyrosine was given within 1 month of amiodarone, right? And the left side is the reverse. For example, -4 means that tyrosine was given 4 months before the amiodarone. Is that clear so far? Everyone with me? Okay. And so you can see that, even, this non-causal group, there are still some prescriptions, some patients, was given tyrosine first and then amiodarone. Okay, so if we look only the upper portion of the chart, it looks like the red portion is the causal group, right? But actually, some of this causal group actually is kind of a random, noise. Because why do we know it is a random noise? Because you look at the non-causal group, there are some patients given tyrosine is the causal group, right? But actually, some of this causal group actually is kind of a random, noise. Because why do we know it is a random noise? Because you look at the non-causal group, there are some patients given tyrosine before the amiodarone. So only when we subtract this background rate, then we know that the red one is actually the signal, and the lower portion of this right part, we consider it as a background rate. It's just randomly, these two drugs were randomly given before or after each other. So the real signal is the upper part of the left side of this graph. Okay, so you will see that later on there are some slides talking about adjusted sequence ratio, and this is how it was adjusted. It was adjusted by the background rate. Okay. And these are some key points of this sequence symmetry analysis. We only use patients who had used both the index drug and the outcome drug. Okay, index drug in the previous example is amiodarone, and the outcome drug will be the tyrosine. So this is the case-only design. And some benefit of this case-only design is that it prevents compounding by indications. And also, it is within subject comparison, because we look at each patient of how these two drugs were first prescribed chronologically. So this is a subject within subject comparison. And again, there are some benefit of within subject comparison, right? Because we can control some time constant confounding factor, like gender or educational level or ethnicity, that kind of things that, rarely change or change very slowly over time. And so this is a good method to control for within subject and time constant factors. But on the other hand, of course, this will be more problematic for some time varying factors or some kind of trend, like prescribing trend. For example, certain new drug coming to the market suddenly, during your study period, and or some insurance reimbursement policy has been changed, and then this drug was prescribed, much more, at a certain time period. This kind of time trend might cause a problem if you want to use this method. Okay. And the requirement of using this method, first of all, we normally use new users to both the drug A and drug B, because we want to know when were these two drugs first initiated, and especially for the drug B, the outcome indicator drug, if this was first initiated after the drug A, the suspected drug that caused the adverse side effect, then we will be more, certain about the chronological order of these two drugs. So normally we use new user.
Carved stone or?
That is an excellent question.
Thank you very much, Swu-Jane. I've been trained by the best.
This normally depends on your understanding about these two drugs. For example, if you suspect this side effect or adverse drug effect might happen very soon, after the drug A index drug, then the time period will be shorter. But if you expect that, usually this side effect happen after maybe patient taking the drug for 3 months, then you probably need a little bit longer time period. And that is actually a very good question. I was going to address a little bit later.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. That's why we need this graph to show the pattern, because this will show you, the time period you might need for this study. If after 6 months you no longer see this, significant number of patients showing up on your graph, then you will know that, probably 6 months is already enough. Yeah. But generally you want to shorten the time period, because the longer you have this time period in your study, maybe it's less likely it is a real causal relationship, because a lot of things can happen in 3 years, like the prescribing trend we said, and maybe the diet change or some behavioral change. Yeah. So, if possible, you would like to shorten the study duration. Okay. Okay, so the first we use new users for this study. And the second thing is even more important is that you need to have good outcome indicators for the side effect or adverse drug effect that you suspected. For example, in order to detect the side effect of hypothyroidism, you use tyrosine as the outcome indicator, because we do this analysis all based on prescription, right? So you need some very good outcome indicators as a proxy for the side effect or for the adverse drug effect or for whatever outcome that you are interested in. Okay, so not only this outcome indicator has to be specific to the outcome, but it also has to be commonly used to treat the outcome. Okay, so the more difficult part is actually identify a good outcome indicators for your study. And usually we use this method on the large database, like claims database, because why? Because we use case only, right? Case only data to do this analysis. So we need to have enough cases to run this analysis. And it is also commonly used for screening adverse drug effect or side effect, because it is rather easy to do. If you know how to write a SAS program, you can easily carry out like 200 analyses very quickly at one time. So it's very good for screening adverse drug effect or side effect. And the next one is that, it has moderate sensitivity but very high specificity. So people carry out like 200 analyses very quickly at one time. So it's very good for screening adverse drug effect or side effect. And the next one is that, it has moderate sensitivity but very high specificity. So depending on your perspective, this might be good or might not be good. I don't know. Yeah, if you want to your hypothesis that this drug will not cause the stroke or some kind of side effect, okay? If you want to confirm the negative, okay, so this is a very good method. But if you want to detect all the possible adverse drug effect, it might not be as good because it only has moderate sensitivity. But later on, we can see other methods that are commonly used for identifying adverse drug reaction. Then you can see that normally all these methods actually have very low sensitivity. So this method is not really that bad. We will do the comparison later on. And then this method provides you a visual presentation of the intensity of the signal. So it's not just provide you a p-value or odds ratio or something like that. You can actually see from the graph that, what is the timing of the possible adverse drug effect that might occur, in your study.
I have to ask another question.
Sure.
So you say that screening for unsuspected ADR. So the idea here is that you look and you see some things that are common to some of the patients that you are not empirically looking for. You're just trying to see. Because you said before, you look for hypothyroidism.
Yeah.
So now, you're saying unsuspected. So is that something known in advance, or you just look and see clusters of one adverse event, one outcome, whatever it is?
Yeah, you can do both. If you already, we actually have example later.
Okay, sorry again. But this is when you say unsuspected, I said, okay, I want to know, do I know it in advance and I want to look for it? Or when I look at the outcome, the results?
You can do, actually, just like all other methods, you can do it both ways. Yeah, you can do the exploration, so that there might be some side effect. You can explore it. Or, there have been some report already.
Okay.
And you want to, or there are some studies already, but sample size are rather small, so you want to do a kind of like a confirmation type of analysis. You can do that too.
Can I follow up on Hin's question?
Sure.
But it's only as good as how specific the medication is to treating that adverse event. So
yes.
It's not great for just widespread signal detection because often our drugs are not specific enough, right? So because you get a beta blocker, it could be for lots of reasons, right?
Exactly.
And so we have to pick drugs that are very specific.
Yes.
And therefore, it may not be great for widespread signal detection use.
Yes. So, later on there will be a study, they try to detect 150 pairs of this drug A and drug B. Yeah, but they spend a lot of time beforehand, just as you say, to identify a very specific treatment that can be used as an indicator for the outcome. Yeah, so that's a very good point. And again, also, the other point is that the side effect has to be severe enough that require treatment. So if it's just something temporary or it will. Okay, so this is the first example of a real study, and it's looked into whether isotretinoin causes depression. And isotretinoin, it is a drug used to treat severe acne. And there has been some report, spontaneous report, saying that there is a possible association of isotretinoin and depression. And so this study, they carry out to use the SSA method to look into the possible, causal relationship of isotretinoin and depression. And the interesting thing is that, not only they look into this isotretinoin and depression, they also use another drug, this antibiotic, minocycline. And minocycline, was not known to cause depression. So the purpose of include the minocycline is to see that, suppose we see a kind of, pattern of isotretinoin, it might be just noise, just random noise. So we use the, minocycline that we know that it is not supposed to have this causal relationship. And then we can do the comparison that if we see some pattern here, if this is a real pattern, real causal relationship, or it is just a random noise. If we include some nonsense drug, we will also see the same thing, maybe. So minocycline is included here as a comparison, so to verify whether this is a valid method or not. And so this is the result. This is figure 1 shows you isotretinoin and antidepressant. And again, the right side is the causal group, and the left side is a non-causal group. And as you can see, these two sides is almost like a mirror image to each other, right? And so, you can almost flip this right side to the left side, and they will be just overlap to each other. Okay, so obviously, there's no real causal relationship between isotretinoin and the use of antidepressant drugs. Okay, so antidepressant drugs were used as the outcome indicator. Okay. And the interesting thing is that why there are so many patients, located at the center of this graph. So the center is the index date the isotretinoin was prescribed, right? So the number of patients, a lot of patient centers on the index date. And why is that?
They're being treated for depression associated with the disease, not the drug.
Yes.
Thanks.
Are you the person that needs to answer my question?
Oh, I didn't know you were talking. Somebody specific, Swu-Jane. Sorry.
No. I'm asking Steve. No, that's okay. Yeah.
We can go out.
I'll be quiet.
No, that's not yet. So the reason is most likely because patient first to see the doctor, whatever it is for the acne or for depression, away. So it's very often that you can see this kind of, whether these are drugs or treatment or any kind of procedures. Often there when A things happen, the B happens also. Right away, or maybe depression cause patients more aware of the acne problem, or the acne problem cause patient depression. And so both are very possible, and they tend to center on the index date. Two things happen at the same time. And the same thing for minocycline. Look at the minocycline. It's almost, the patterns are almost the same as the figure 1. Okay, so it's give us more certainty that there is probably no relationship between the isotretinoin and antidepressant. Okay, so this is the example that I say in the beginning that the important thing is how to verify this is a valid method. Not just how to use this method, but whether this is a good methodology or not. And this is another study. This is in Canada. They used a large database of 4.2 million residents in Canada, and using this healthcare database to carry out the study. And the study is to see whether these three groups of drugs, diuretic, statin, and the long-acting beta-2 agonist, LABA, could cause a muscle cramp Okay, and there are some reports before, but not good studies available to investigate this relationship. Okay, so we know that we are interested in directed setting and LABA, but the outcome, muscle cramp, it's a little bit non-specific. We need to find good outcome indicators to as a proxy for the leg cramps. And I don't know about United States, but in Canada, apparently they use quinine for the treatment of outcome indicator, probably in the form of gin and tonic. And so this is how they do this study. They look into the prescription of directed setting and LABA and the prescription of quinine. Okay, so this is the result. Okay, I'll read this to you. Maybe, I don't know if you can see this. Okay, I label it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and the first one, the outcomes are all leg cramps. And the drugs they were interested in for the first one is LABA. And the second one is potassium-sparing diuretic. And third one is also diuretic, but it is thiazide-like diuretic. And the number 4 is loop diuretic. And the last one is for the statin. Okay, and now you can see what they look like, if you plot them on the graph. And again, this is the causal group, and this is non-causal group. And what do you think? Which one you think that might be some possible side effect? Okay, let me see. What do you think? Graph. And again, this is the causal group, and this is non-causal group. And what do you think? Which one you think that might be some possible side effect? Okay, let me see. What do you think?
I would think 5. Because it is up and it stayed up. Statins.
5? Okay. And which one, okay, let's make it easier. Which one you think might have the strongest
signals?
Yeah, signal.
Well, see, it all depends. It all depends. Let me tell you something. It all depends on, and then everyone can say whatever they want to say. It all depends on how soon after you prescribe the index medication you see the signals. So if it is supposed to happen automatically right there, then you look into the closest to the index. If it is after 2 or 3 months or whatever it is, then it should be. So it's all really specific to when you would expect the drug to induce leg cramps.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I think the easier way is that, look at the pre-index state pattern, and you just try to flip it over on that side, and see what are the residuals after you flip this part to that part. Understand what I'm saying? Okay. And so if they are totally overlapped to each other, then, it's not likely to be a significant signal. But if after you flip it over, it still has a lot of, residual part, then, it's possible there is a significant effect. So do you want to reconsider your answer?
Yes, I do. I'm so glad that you're allowing us the opportunity.
Give you a second chance.
Okay, good. Girls and boys, go ahead and say what you want to say. She's going to kill me afterward.
Okay, you can silently talk to yourself. I'm going to give you the answer. For the LABA, that's the number 1. The adjusted sequence ratio is 2.42, and p-value is less than 0.001. Okay, and for the potassium-sparing diuretic, that's the number 2. the ratio is 2.12. And again, it is p less than 0.001. And for the thiazide, it is 1.48. Okay, and significant as well, p less than 0.001. For the loop diuretic, the ratio is 1.2, but it was not significant. For the statin, ratio is 1.16, and it's fairly significant.
I failed miserably.
It's significant. It's still significant, but it's you know we should credit you as no. You pick up the smallest effect. Everyone can see the large effect.
Thank you, Swu-Jane. You're always good.
You were very good at prompt discussion. I did hear the grad students saying 1 and 2. I really did. And Dr. Lee said 2, but the grad students said 1 and 2.
That's good.
Very good.
Yeah.
And for the diuretic altogether, it's not on the graph, but
It's 1.45 and one is 2.1, you know. So do you say that the LABA causes significantly higher risk of, or you don't do that? You don't do this.
That's a very good question. But the purpose for the SSA is mainly, remember, within subject comparison.
Yeah.
You know, we're not really comparing group 1 to group, like LA, BA with statin. You know, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to see whether the outcome associated with the exposure. You know, so in order to do between group comparison, you know, there are still many things to be considered. And this study, it was done by my student in Taiwan, and I found this study very interesting. Not just because it tries to detect a adverse drug effect, but it's interesting because of the methodology. And this study is to look into the side effect of anti-epileptic drugs that cause the hypothyroidism. And but there is some consideration because the hypothyroidism could be caused by a number of things. You know, caused by age, caused by many other drugs. You know, and so with this method, not only we want to know whether anti-epileptic drugs cause hypothyroidism, we also want to know maybe if we saw something, is this a real causal relationship, or maybe this is some spurious association, you know, from a number of other possible factors. And so, okay, pay attention. In this study, you know, we test 6 pairs of different associations. We have 3 index drugs, 3 different exposure. The first one is the one that we are really interested in, that is the anti-epileptic drugs. And the second one is amiodarone. And we are not really interested in amiodarone, but we are interested to see, you know, whether the patterns, the analysis result would be comparable to our hypothesis. And the last index drug is a statin drug, Can you see that? Okay, it is the rosuvastatin. And for the marker drugs, they are used to test the to indicate the outcome effect. We have 2 marker drugs. One is tyrosine, and of course, tyrosine is used to treat hypothyroidism. And the other drug is methimazole. Methimazole was used to treat hyperthyroidism, so it is the opposite of hypothyroidism. And according to spontaneous report system and previous literature, you know, we come up with 6 hypotheses. You know, we hypothesize that anti-epileptic drugs will cause hypothyroidism. Therefore, there will be increased use of tyrosine after anti-epileptic drug. And for the number 2 hypothesis, we don't think that anti-epileptic drug will cause hyperthyroidism. Epileptic drugs will cause hypothyroidism. Therefore, there will be increased use of thyroxine after anti-epileptic drug. And for the number 2 hypothesis, we don't think that anti-epileptic drug will cause hyperthyroidism. Therefore, there is a dashed line. See that for the second pair. Okay, dashed line here. Okay, so dashed line indicates that there should be no association between epileptic drug and the use of methylthyroxine. And similarly for amiodarone, is able to cause the dysfunction of thyroid either as hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. Both have been reported. So we think that there should be some significant relationship for the hypothesis 3 and hypothesis 4. And then, statin was not known to, cause some problem of the thyroid. So for the hypothesis number 5 and 6, we think that there should be no, correlation for the hypothesis 5 and 6. Okay, so everyone got this? And this is the result. Okay, and I only show partial of the result. For the result, that the figure that indicate as 1, 1, okay. These are 4 different type of epileptic drugs, and the use of thyroxine. For example, this one, okay, this one is phenytoin. These are some very old drugs. Okay, phenytoin and the use of thyroxine. And for example, this last one is another anti-epileptic drug, carbamazine, and the use of thyroxine. And this is phenobarbital, and this is valproate, and the use of thyroxine. Okay, so this is all related to our first hypothesis, the first pair of our hypothesis, right? And again, and this one too, this is carbamazepine and thyroxine. And number 5 is statin and thyroxine. And number 3 is amiodarone and thyroxine. Okay, and again, you want to guess which one is significant from this graph? And which one is not significant? Which one you think might be most significant? Yes?
3.
Oh, 3. Which one is 3? Oh, okay. Anyone else?
I would say that phenytoin.
Okay. Phenytoin, so it's this one.
See, you need me to speak, but I'm not going to.
No, please. Yeah. Which one do you think?
No, it will be a long train ride after that.
Okay. And since you don't have a hand out, okay. Which one do you think?
No, it will be a long train ride after that.
Okay. And since you don't have a hand out, okay. Okay, this is the result. And again, I label it according to the hypothesis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. And these are the 3 group of index drugs that we are interested in. This is anti-epileptic drugs, and this one, number 3, this is amiodarone, and this is the statin drug. And on this side, the marker drug is thyroxine. And on this side, this is methylmazole, that's for hyperthyroidism. Okay, so we look at this anti-epileptic drug. These are all significant, and some are not. But overall, for the anti-epileptic drug as a group, the adjusted ratio is significant. Okay, according to this 95% of confidence interval. So, this support our first hypothesis. And how about the second hypothesis? Were this anti-epileptic drug cause hyperthyroidism? No, none of this is significant, right? So our hypothesis is also supported according to the result. What about amiodarone and the tyrosine? It's significant. So who says number 3? More credit to you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, not only it is significant, look at this adjusted ratio. This is 2.14. This is the largest among, other than this 2.15. But this is not on the graph. Okay, so number 4 is also significant. So amiodarone is significantly associated with both the hyper and the hypothyroidism. What about statin? None of these is significant. So, our hypothesis 5 and 6 are also supported, right? So overall, it looks like this is a good method, at least according to our hypothesis, it all goes to the direction as we hypothesized. Okay, so I saw this pretty neat. Okay, so now we know this is probably a good method and a valid and reliable method for detecting signal. But we know there are also other methods used to detect signal of adverse drug effect, right? So we want to know, compared to other methods, how good is this SSA, stack up? We want to know, compared to other methods. And so this study, I saw this is a very neat study as well. And this is published by the group of researchers. They have done a lot of this study. And the way they do it is that they start with identifying 19 of different test medicine here. Okay, they start with 19 tested medications, and then they go about into 120 randomized control trial, with involves these 19 drugs, reported side effect, positive side effect and a negative side effect. Negative side effect means that there's no such side effect. It doesn't mean that it is the opposite way around. It only means that, this drug does not cause the increased risk of stroke. So this is a negative effect. Okay. So based on this clinical trial and the product information, they extract all the adverse drug events from this material and then identify the adverse event, and from this clinical trial and from this package insert. And this result will be used as the gold standard to test the efficiency of this methodology. And then they have 2 clinicians to identify indicators for these 165 pairs of possible causal relationship. And among these 165 pairs of medication and indicator, 44 pairs are positive. Means that it has significant, increase the risk of adverse drug effect. And the 121 pairs are negative events. Okay, so we have 165. Everyone follows me so far? 165. And then we use the database. They use the database, Australian database, to run all these 165 pairs of possible negative and positive association. And this is the result. Okay, let's look at the gold standard first. So gold standard, remember we said there are 165 pairs. Among them, 44 are positive association and 121 pair are negative association, right? So this is the gold standard, and these numbers are taken from either clinical trial or package insert product information. And these are the results from the sequence symmetry analysis. And using this analysis, we found 35 pair of positive significant adverse side effect, but 130 pairs of negative association. And so put in all this number, we can come up the sensitivity. This is sensitivity is 27 divided by 44. So the sensitivity is 61% and specificity is 93%. And can someone tell me what is sensitivity? What is specificity?
Sensitivity is like the odds of saying that something's positive when it actually is positive.
Yes. Okay. Or we can say that among the positive, the true positive, what's the percentage of of the day can be identified? Okay. So say you already know that there are 44 positive pairs. So among these 44 positive, you can detect 27. But, still you miss quite a big chunk, right? You miss 17, you actually miss almost 40% of the, signal according to the gold standard. But in terms of specificity, it's quite good, right? It's identified, 93%. Significant or non-significant. Okay. And so we actually, when we do the study, we focus on positive predictive value and negative predictive value. Why? Because that is the type 1 error and type 2 error. We often focus on study result. So according to the this study,
so if I'm a drug maker, do I want the adverse events to be the sensitivity to be low and the specificity to be high, or how do I fudge my numbers?
I think it depends on what kind of drug company you are.
Okay, well, I'm an RC drug company, so tell me which one will make my drug fly.
For example, if someone said, your drug will increase the risk of heart attack.
Okay.
But you have confidence that no, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. Okay, and so this is good because if it really has no effect on the risk, you will pick up this because the specificity is very high, right? But if on the other hand you are academic researchers, you might want to focus on the sensitivity. Right? You want to pick up the adverse drug effect. Yeah, so it depends on your perspective. But anyway.
Just for a time check, we'll have a couple minutes left.
Oh, okay. Then we have to hurry up. Okay. So the type 1 error is 23% according to this number, and type 2 error is 13%. So it means that the power, statistical power, is very high, but the type 1 error might be a little bit too much. Yeah, and the next one, is really important. It's a comparison between these three methods that are often used for signal detection and how they compare to SSA. And these three methods are proportional reporting ratio, reporting odds ratio, and the Bayesian confidence propagation neural network. And these three methods often are used in, detecting signal from spontaneous reporting system, like the FDA spontaneous reporting system. And this study was done by the same group of investigators. So the methods actually are the same as previous study. The only thing different is that in this study, in order to compare all these different methods, they apply these three methods in with the FDA spontaneous reporting system data. And then they use SA to, again, on the same Australian claims database. And if you are interested in how these methods are calculated, these are the agency that use this, 3 method for the spontaneous reporting system, and this is how they are computed. And the last column is that how they decided whether this signal is significant or not. Okay. And so these are the results. Remember this, the first 3 methods apply to spontaneous reporting system data, and the last one applied to the claims database. So they are not really the same data source. But as you can see, for this 3, the first 3 methods, the sensitivity actually are also quite low, right? But they are commonly used in the spontaneous reporting data. And they also have the common characteristic of high specificity and low. The first 3 methods, the sensitivity actually are also quite low, right? But they are commonly used in the spontaneous reporting data. And they also have the common characteristic of high specificity and low sensitivity. And then this is the positive predictive rate and the negative predictive rate. So this gives us some idea about the efficiency of SSA. And the last important slide is this one. So now we know this method, maybe in terms of sensitivity and specificity, they are roughly the same. But there is one remaining question left. That is, if they identify some signal, are they identify the same signals, or are they actually identify different signals? For example, maybe they identify different type of adverse drug effect. Okay. And so this is how they compare. The lowest part, if we use all these 4 methods together, and if any signal significant is considered as significant, any of these 4 methods identify a significant signal, we consider it as significant, then we will be able to identify altogether 86% of the adverse drug effect based on the gold standard comparison. Okay, and among the 86%, the first part 30% of the adverse event, can detect it by any of the method. Okay, whether you use the method 1, 2, 3, or 4, they can all identify this 30% of adverse effect. And the 19% here, this is the adverse drug effect detected by, either the PRR, ROR, or BCP, and then it means that they identify from the spontaneous reporting system. But if we only use PR, and ROR, it is 0%. Okay, uniquely identified by this method. And there are 2% that detected only by the BCPNN. Okay, and the last part is 35%. 35% can only be identified by the SSA. Okay, so this sort of gives you a little idea about the efficiency of this method. Okay, and I think the last two slides are just a summary of this method. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.